So, the prospect of building a better future for many people is a very exciting idea to approach. It is for me. I wake up and I think about the things that I want to achieve in 5 years' time, 6 years' time, 10 years' time, and it's exciting. It inspires me, it keeps me going. And I think that is the same for most people. But whilst it's exciting, it's actually quite scary as well, because for many people, and I harp on about this all the time, financial education or the lack thereof means that sometimes we just don't know how to get there. And when we think about what's at stake here, what's at stake is essentially financial security. It's the difference between being able to offer your children, if you have children, the start that you never had in life, i.e., help with their first deposit, help get in their first car. If you plan ahead, and we'll talk about some of the numbers a bit later on, saving money for your children so they don't actually have to take out a mortgage. They can just go and buy a place because you've put a plan in motion right now. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. It is all about making a plan for a nest egg. It's time to feather the nest. So what is a nest egg? The phrase nest egg actually comes from the farming industry, unsurprisingly. For me, when I look at the nest egg and what it essentially means, it is not necessarily about having or knowing exactly what you're going to spend an amount of money on. It's having an amount of money, and that will vary from person to person, that you know will be available for all of these eventualities. It could be, again, the difference between helping your firstborn or your children with the house deposit. It could be the difference between being able to send your kids to university or private school. It's having a sense of security in knowing that you have the financial resources available. Now, this ties very, very closely into financial well-being, because one of the proponents for positive financial well-being is having the peace of mind or the calm in knowing that you have enough in terms of financial resources to deliver the future that you envisage for yourself and for your family. And one thing we do know, and is well documented, is that if you suffer from poor financial well-being, you're over 4 times more likely to be suffering from anxiety and depression. So this is a really, really important topic. And for me, I view it as a goal that is empowering, that is really, really exciting to work towards. But ultimately, me being me, I'm going to talk to you about putting things in place, a plan, a strategy to help you achieve this nest egg for the future in a tangible way. And we're going to talk about some of those numbers shortly. So with that being said, let's break down the nest egg goal. Let's get into some of the common questions that people often ask. And in answering these questions, I hope that we're going to inspire you and anybody that you share this video with to get on the road to building your own nest egg early. Time is of the essence here. And trust me, guys, this is a goal that is going to probably be one of the most rewarding goals you could possibly ever work towards, and your future self will thank you. It's not surprising that building a nest egg is a really common goal, particularly when we have a growing family or we're planning for a family in the future and we start to consider the kind of life we would like to provide for ourselves or our loved ones. In a study conducted a few years back by M&G, almost half of those who took part said they had actively saved or invested for a child under the age of 18 in the last 5 years. And from the coaching work that I do, the goal of building a nest egg, whether that be for yourself or your family, is one of the most popular reasons for starting your investment journey. So how do you get started, and what approach should you use? What type of accounts might you consider? And should you save or invest? These are some of the most popular questions that we're going to walk through today. And if investing towards your nest egg is the right approach for you, we'll talk about how Eureka can help you make your money work for you. So let's start with the most common question when we look at building a nest egg. The first one is, well, do I save or do I invest? Now, the last time I checked, here in the UK, there were 36 million savings accounts and only 2.2 million stocks and shares ISAs. So what that essentially tells us is that as a society, we are more comfortable in a savings environment than we are in an investment environment. So with savings, it makes sense because essentially it's easily accessible. You can see it, you can touch it. It's great for short term. It's not great for long term. And it's not great for the long term for the following reasons. First and foremost, inflation. Inflation is all about eroding your purchasing power. So your £10 today is not going to be worth £10 in 10 years' time. And when you factor in the fact that we're in an environment where there are such low interest rates right now, you're almost having a double whammy. Not only is your money not growing, but you're also eroding your purchasing power. So in 10 years' time, your £10 today might be worth £5. That doesn't make sense when you're planning towards a nest egg where you're trying to have a tangible pot of money for financial security. So savings is great for the short term, but definitely not something that is worthwhile considering or should be considered for the long term. And that brings us on to investing. And whilst investing is my preferred route, investing does have its own issues in the fact that first and foremost, if your investment time horizon is relatively short, then investing really isn't for you. You've got to contend with market volatility. And we all know the markets can go up and down. It's like a seesaw. One day you're up, one day you're down. And the best way of riding this out is by investing over the long term. And you also have to be mindful of, do you understand the risk that you're taking when you're investing as well? Again, it may sound like a pretty basic question, but it is a real tangible question with that as well. And I say this on the video, on this channel all of the time. If you're going to be investing, you have to start from a solid base. And a solid base looks like having an emergency fund so that if for whatever reason you're unable to work due to health or due to an accident and you're not getting your full sick pay anymore, you've got some money set aside that can cover you for maybe 3 to 6 months so that if the boiler were to break or the car needs to be replaced, you haven't got to go into personal loans or overdrafts or, God forbid, payday loans that end up costing you a lot of money. Alternatively, having to dip into the markets to get the money that you've invested out when the markets could possibly be down. You need to have a really solid foundation. So having said all of that, what we're looking at here is short term versus long term. And because we're talking about nest egg, we're talking 10, 15, 20 years. Long term is the goal. And in order for you to achieve your goal with nest egg, it's all about taking advantage of time, compound interest, and putting yourself in an environment where you can outstrip inflation. And what we do know is that from investing, historically, it has always outstripped inflation and it always beats savings rates. So when we combine those factors together and we're looking long term, investing is the route to explore. So the second question is account type. So what kind of accounts should you be looking to invest in? Well, that question is, again, a very, very good question. So let's start by thinking about the first rule of financial planning, which you've heard me speak about a number of times, which is tax efficiency. So within your tax efficient wrappers, and again, this may be a case where you want to secure a nest egg for your family. I'm going to start with junior ISAs first because this talks about your kids. So what is a junior ISA? A junior ISA is basically an ISA account which is completely tax-free that anybody can contribute to. You could pay into it on behalf of your children, your grandparents can pay in, an uncle and aunt could also pay into this junior ISA. So it is for your children, it is tax-free. And again, for this purposes, we're talking about investing, so it's a stocks and shares junior ISA. Now, the limit for junior ISAs currently sits at £9,000, which is a lot of money for junior ISAs. It really, really is. Now, with a junior ISA, because it's stocks and shares, it will be invested for the longer term. Now, the positive behind that is it's invested in the stock market. So again, time, compound interest, that investment return over an 18-year period potentially could be absolutely huge. And when we talk about maybe providing a deposit for your children's first home or paying for university fees or even having a lump sum of money so they can go and purchase a house without a mortgage, this could be a very, very powerful tool because it allows you to really practically plan for that nest egg dream for your children, for example. Okay, so now we've spoken a little bit about the pros of a junior ISA. Let's touch on the cons because this is something that is really important to think about because the numbers are great, but there is a real worry here. So one of the big things that you have to acknowledge is with a junior ISA, at age 18, your child will take ownership of the amount of money that you have amassed in that junior ISA. Now, let's put some numbers on this. The allowance is £9,000. Over 18 years, that's over £160,000. And we've not even accounted for any investment returns that you might get. These are significant for sums. Now, I don't know about you, but if someone had given me £160,000 when I was 18, it wouldn't have ended well, bearing in mind that I knew nothing about money. So, from a family point of view, and if you're watching this and you do have kids, and this is something you're considering, your at-home financial education becomes really important in this consideration in terms of teaching your children how to make good financial decisions, in terms of that knowledge of financial literacy and the value of money. That really does matter here, because as a financial advisor, I have seen it where parents become very, very worried about their children getting hold of a large sum of money at age 18 and worrying about what they're going to do with it. And it is a just cause for worry. So that's one big thing to consider with this. The other thing that I would also kind of highlight as a con here, and it ties to this notion of, this money is assigned to one person, is that if you are maybe a little concerned that plans might change. So, for example, you could be putting this money aside for your child, thinking that they're going to use it for university fees. What if that changes and the money you want to allocate the money to something else? Well, you can't. So just bear in mind, opening a junior ISA account, it's almost final, essentially. And it's a big consideration to have and to make when looking at junior ISAs. This brings us very, very nicely into the realms of the individual ISA. Because if things do change, plans do change, and the money's assigned to a child, you don't have any options, unfortunately. So you might decide that you want to save it, maybe for the family, for yourself, for you to actually control under your own ISA wrapper. And this is where we talk about individual ISAs. Now, with an individual ISA, your allowance every single tax year is £20,000. And the tax year runs from April the 6th each year to April the 5th. It resets every single year, giving you a new £20,000 allowance. Now, this is great because if you are a couple, that means that you get £20,000 each. And if you're lucky enough to be in a position where you do essentially max out your ISA allowance, as a household, that's £40,000. So £20,000 for your wife or your partner, £20,000 for you. But even if you do look at it as in isolation as your own, as an individual person, it's £20,000 per year that you can actually save into your ISAs. Now, if I were to be really picky around cons for an ISA, it is that you can't have it as a joint account. So you and your partner can't have it as a joint account. You'd have to have individual ones and essentially have the money sat within separate wrappers towards your nest egg goal as a household or as a couple. That's really the only con that I can think of when it comes to ISAs. But ISAs are a great vehicle because they are completely tax-free and you can generate an income from them also completely tax-free to fund your nest egg goals in the future. Right, so there is a third account type that is worthwhile mentioning in this conversation about nest eggs and building one, right? And it's pensions. Now, if you're an employee working in a business for an employer, there have been recent legislation change in the last decade, which mean that your employer now, by law, has to pay money into your pension on your behalf. So essentially, it is free money to help you build towards your future, your nest egg. There are a couple of other advantages and pros to this as well. First and foremost, it is the only time really that the government is actually giving you money for free in aid of your future goals or your nest egg. So with any pension contribution that you make, you get 25% top up from the government to increase the amount that you're investing and potentially ultimately your purchasing power for the future. Another pro of a pension is this. At age 55, you have the ability to take 25%, so a quarter of whatever you have in your pension, completely tax-free. That access to that cash in one lump sum or in a number of transactions is something that you can do whatever you wish with. You could help your grandkids, you could help your children with a lump sum amount, completely up to you. You have full flexibility. But that also brings us on to some of the cons when it comes to pensions. And this is one of the big ones, and it puts most people off in the fact that with a pension, you cannot access it until the age of 55. Now, if you are, say, 45 and your nest egg goal is a 10-year goal, this is perfect for you, because essentially at 55, you'll be able to access a quarter of your money completely tax-free to do with whatever you want. However, if you're 25 and you're likely to need access to that money when you're 40, unfortunately, this won't really work for you because the funds are tied up until 55. You cannot access it under current legislation until then. It's a pretty big one, but one that's worthwhile considering. Now, another one which I'm going to mention anyway, which people see as a con, I don't necessarily see it as a con, but most people perceive it as a con, is that when you eventually manage to take income from your pension, after you've taken your 25% tax-free, any income that you derive from it is going to be taxable at the income tax rate. So in summary, we've had a look at junior ISAs, stocks and shares ISAs, and we've also had a look at pensions. 3 really good options to help you plan and invest towards your nest egg. But I've highlighted a lot of pros and cons with each of them. So in your selection, just make sure that you're doing your homework to make sure you select the most appropriate one for you. We can help you here. Ask me questions. That's what I'm here for. You can message me on IG, or you can just leave some questions down in the comments below. So I do a lot of coaching with people one-on-one. And when I do coach people, I get some common questions. Questions like, how much should I invest? Where should I invest it? What platform should I use? What does risk actually mean? How do I understand it? How do I take advantage of it? It's the reason why we're building Eureka. Now, if you've not seen any of the previous videos that I've posted around Eureka, this is an example of a thumbnail. Go watch this video. It will give you a bit of a background. Now, so far in this video, we've spoken about account types. Now, with junior ISAs and pensions, we don't quite have those just yet, but what we do have is an ISA, a flexible ISA, which you can use to help you plan towards your nest egg goals. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is just grab my phone and I'm going to screen record my phone and my screen so that you can see what I'm about to show you real time. Now, the website address that you need is eureka.com/nest. And what will happen is it will bring you to this page right here. Now, I want to take you down to our Tomorrow Builder. If you've watched some of the previous videos, you would have heard about the Tomorrow Builder. It's very, very simple, very, very intuitive as a tool, something you can use to help you plan. Now, one of the first questions that we ask you is, how long do you want to invest for? Now, if you've taken coaching with me, you will know that this is probably one of the biggest questions I ask you after, what is your goal? How long have you got to work towards this particular goal? So we use sliders because we want to keep it really, really simple, keep it intuitive. So I'm going to use 10 years as my proposed time horizon here. So if I go 10 years right now, I've selected 10 years. Now, the important thing to remember here, and this is where we are very, very different, is unique to us, is that by selecting 10 years or 15 years or whatever it is that you select, in this case, I've chosen 10 years, in the background, we are automatically selecting your investment portfolio on your behalf. Now, what that basically means is that as a first-time investor or as an investor, you don't have to worry about making sense of understanding what level of risk you should be taking. It is one of the biggest things that people often ask and just don't understand. And to be honest, it isn't for you to understand. We are the professionals. We should be able to do that for you. And in the background, what we're essentially doing is we are looking at 100 years worth of data, and we are deciding based on your selection where you should be invested based on historic data that tells us what markets, where has delivered consistently the best returns. We've done all that work in the background. We are the only ones in the industry right now doing time-based portfolios, where the time that you're investing for takes precedent and helps us determine where you invest and what level of risk you should be taking, because it's not something that you should be worried about. It should be our job to do so. So in this example, I've chosen 10 years. Now, let's just say you have a target and say, my nest egg number is £20,000. The next question we're going to ask you is, well, how much do you have to invest on a monthly basis? So again, it's a slider. So if it's £20,000, all I basically do is just play around with the slider to see what I need to contribute. Now, if I go to £120 per month, I'm going to arrive, according to the Tomorrow Builder, at just over £20,300. Now, the reality of a nest egg is people are in different circumstances. You're also going to have different circumstances where you actually might have a lump sum to pay in. Some people won't. But if you do, you can use the third slider here to say, well, actually, you know what? I've got £5,000 as a lump sum that I'd like to put in now. And as you can see here, based on a 10-year time horizon, a £120 contribution per month, and a £5,000 lump sum deposit, you're now just under £30,000 as your projected nest egg. This is actually really, really powerful. But what you can do, and this is the great thing that I like about the Tomorrow Builder, is it's interactive, it's intuitive. Now you can start to play around, to start to build out your plan and your future. So you might say, well, actually, you know what? Maybe I want to hold back some of that monthly contribution so that I can use it for something else. Maybe save for a holiday, for example. So all you simply do is you go to the middle slider and you reduce down your monthly contributions. Now, if you go down to £70 per month, you're still going to get to about £21,400 is what we're projecting here. You've still met your target. You could go even lower if you wanted to. So let's see what happens if we get down to £60 per month. Okay, just under £20,000. So now you have choices. You can start to play around. You can start to build your plan. You can start to get a feel for what your journey towards your nest egg is. And the great thing about this is you can just go and play with this on the website. We've not asked you for your name. We've not asked you for your address. We've not asked you for anything at all. It is simply a tool to help empower your planning for this goal. Now, let's just say, for example, you want to go a little bit longer because you know what? You're 25. You want to plan for a 20-year time horizon. Well, let's increase that number. 20 years right here. Again, if you're doing £60 per month with a £5,000 lump sum, you're looking at just over £81,000 at relatively low monthly contributions, which, if you're really strict with your budget, isn't out of the realms of possibility. It isn't out of this world contributions. It is something small being done regularly to get you the sense of security and well-being, that peace of mind in knowing that you're going to have some resources for the future. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the returns. As I've already alluded to, we look at 100 years of data to ascertain where we should be putting your money based on where we know has delivered the most return over the past 100 years. Clearly, historic performance is no indication to future performance. But what we can do is we can use data to inform the decisions that we make right now. As you can see on the Tomorrow Builder, on a 20-year time horizon, this is giving you a target annualized return of 9.9%. This is going to be on average. We know that, some years you're going to get 15%, some years you might get 5% on average over that period of time, which is why time and being able to ride out the markets is so, so important. But rest assured, when we talk about this, we are using data to inform what we're showing you on the Tomorrow Builder. This is all about allowing you to plan. Money is a tool, life is for living. This right here is a tool for your money. So it's a win-win situation in every case. All right, okay, so I've just shown you the Tomorrow Builder. The website address for that is eureka.com/nest. Go and check it out. Believe it or not, that is as complex as it gets for you when it comes to starting your investment journey. We believe keeping things simple is definitely the way to go when it comes to building these kind of tools. So go and check it out. If you think this is something that will help you towards your nest egg, then also just sign up. We need your email address to get you started. It really is as simple as that. Now, I do want to talk about security because it's something that I do talk about all the time. Obviously, being FCA regulated and authorized is paramount. It's a non-negotiable. Eureka is also having some protection under the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, which you also get with Eureka as well. Two maybe not important points in your mind, but absolutely important points that you absolutely need to cover. In closing this, because I know we've covered quite a lot, I do want to say a big thank you to everyone who has signed up to us so far. It's really comforting and quite a confidence boost in what we're trying to do to know that so many of you have shown the confidence in us and have signed up. Really, thank you. Thank you so much. I would say if you do have questions or you want to express your thoughts around what we're doing, please put them in the comment section below. I will be in there. Chris will be in there as well to answer as many questions as possible. But as always, guys, thank you so much. I know we've covered quite a lot in this video. But guys, remember, money is a tool. Life is for living. We've got a fantastic tool to use to help you to live the life that you want. So go and sign up. The link is going to be pinned in the comment section below. Whatever you're doing, have an amazing day. Have an amazing week. Catch you later on.